দর্শক আমন্ত্রণ আরটিভি নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইটে। এই অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা কথা বলি বিভিন্ন সেক্টরের বিশেষজ্ঞদের সাথে যারা বাংলাদেশ নিয়ে ভবিষ্যৎ পরিকল্পনা ও তাদের অভিজ্ঞতা নিয়ে আলোচনা করেন। অন্যরকম ও অভূতপূর্ব এক সময়ে এখন আছি আমরা। কোভিড-19 মহামারী ছড়িয়ে পড়েছে সারা বিশ্বে দাবানলের মতো। জীবন ও জীবিকা উভয়ই আজ ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত, জীবনযাপনও আজ অনেকটাই পরিবর্তিত, যার ছোঁয়া লেগেছে আমাদের রেমিটেন্স যোদ্ধাদের মধ্যেও। এসব নিয়ে কথা বলবো আজকের ফোর্থরাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছে আমি সৈয়দ আশিক রহমান। আজকের বিষয় মাইগ্রেন্টস ক্রাইসিস ডিউরিং কোভিড-19 প্যান্ডামিক। আর এই বিষয়ে আলোচনার জন্য আজ আমাদের সঙ্গে যুক্ত হয়েছেন গণপ্রজাতন্ত্রী বাংলাদেশ সরকারের প্রবাসী কল্যাণমন্ত্রী জনাব ইমরান আহমেদ এমপি এবং জাতিসংঘের অভিবাসন বিষয়ক সংস্থা IOM এর কান্ট্রি রিপ্রেজেন্টেটিভ মিস্টার গিওর্গি গ্রিগরি। Thank you very much both of you for joining with us. Firstly, I would like to start with Mr. Georgi. Mr. Georgi, in your view, how does IOM add value to Bangladesh? What is IOM's strategy here and globally?
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to you and to all the listeners. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor. So as to your question, IOM is the UN migration agency. So our role as any other UN agency is to support the government and its people. And our mandate is migration, displacement, and we work on both development and humanitarian affairs. Our job is to make sure that well-managed migration benefits all, the governments and the people. And in Bangladesh, we've been here for over 20 years. We work on migration development. We work very closely with the Ministry of Minister Ahmed. And we work on the Rohingya crisis and humanitarian operations as well. And I hope that we contribute to the government through our expertise and through our human resources programs that we hope to continue to implement, not just during crisis, but during development times too.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, Mr. Imran Ahmed, since the COVID-19 pandemic is a crisis of a completely different magnitude and it requires a response of unprecedented scale. Huge number of workers returns from abroad. What are your initiatives for migrant citizens?
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon or good morning or good night wherever our listeners
Globally.
are. The issue of the migrants' return, all the time a migrant is either going or coming. This is a normal feature. But in the present COVID-19 situation, and added to that is the economic downturn in most of our receiving countries, that is the Middle East. The two reasons have initiated a situation where many more migrants are coming back than expected. Now, in the normal situation, everything is planned and there is no problem. But when there is a flood coming, then there has to be a lot of readjustment and rethinking and redoing. We are in that process at the moment. We have taken a lot of initiatives. We have strengthened a lot of initiatives that were taken earlier on. Many of the migrants who have got stuck up there, the government did take a lot of initiative, like just for argument's sake, during the COVID high time when it was very made a difficult situation for all our workers. We sent about 13.5 crore takas to different countries to give support to the people over there who have lost their jobs or who are sick or who could not do or could not come back because of the flights have been stopped. This is a lot of money to be spent, and this has all been done from the ministry's labor welfare fund. No extra fund has been taken from the government so far. Other than that, we have this system that people who go there legally using registration in the BMET format, they go with a smart card. If anyone dies during this period and his body comes back, we give them 35,000 as an initial thing and a further 300,000 takas for the family. This was only for the people who have gone with the smart card from the government. We have expanded that now under this ministry, that anybody who dies of COVID infection, we are covering them also, whether they are there legally or undocumented or illegal.
People, yeah.
Yes. Whatever the word is, we are covering them also under this scheme. when you talk about what we have done for the returning people, we have taken up a scheme, and the first scheme is already on the move. That is giving them a financial package or loan. 200 crore takas have been sanctioned and the process is already on. We have asked for applications for people interested to take loans and put in their projects. And this is being worked on, and this is something ongoing which will go on.
Well,
Furthermore, for more returning migrants, 500 crore taka more is coming. And we have also moved into the skill development program for these people who are coming back.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Prime Minister has declared to provide 3 lakh taka for the rehabilitation of the families of all registered and unregistered migrants workers who died in the COVID-19 pandemic. How does Ministry works on these issues? What about their rehabilitation?
No, the rehabilitation comes the second part. First is if somebody has died, then we have to do something for that family, right?
Yes.
And that is where the 300,000 takas comes in. We are working on certain issues, particularly what we call is the recognition of prior learning. This is something we're trying to do is that so that they can get a certification on the recognition that they've worked for 10 years on a particular job and they know something. And for this, we would of course require from the employer saying that he has been with us doing this job for the last 10, 15 years. We are trying to approach all the big contractors that if they require people with certain skills, and they can approach us and we'd like to send them the names so that they can get employed. Mr. Corona has just come in the last 6 months. The situation wouldn't have been that bad if this hadn't happened. And when we talk about a lot of items, obviously this is something to be done, but it is again something which cannot be done overnight. Some time has to be given, lead time has to be given. And if you give me lead time, let's say up to January or February next year, how much of the extra work?
Honorable Minister, we'll come back to you again. Mr.
Yes.
Georgi, a Migration Policy Institute says that 17% of the 156 million civilian workers combating the COVID are foreign-born. Therefore, migrants create more economic value than many seems to think. What do you say on this?
That question depends on who is asking the question. So for the more advanced countries, it is for those that I'm not talking about the health aspect now, I'm purely talking about migration. It's more of a nuisance. It is a restriction on travel. People can go on their holidays, restrictions from work, and in certain cases, students cannot go abroad. There's problems with schools and universities. For migrant workers, however, especially from the economically less advanced countries, it is a question in some cases, not just their livelihoods, it's a question of life and death. So it's very important to understand and how important it is that we address the needs of the most vulnerable. Those are the ones we should be focused on.
Mr. Georgi, a Migration Policy Institute says that 17% of the 156 million civilian workers combating the COVID are foreign-born. Therefore, migrants create more economic value than many seems to think. What do you say on this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is not even a question to be discussed or debated. This is just a matter of fact to be dealt with. I will encourage your listeners to look at the UK's Prime Minister's statement after he recovered from COVID, where he personally thanked a number of frontline health workers that were migrants that saved his life. I think that encapsulates it very succinctly.
Honorable Minister, recently almost 18 billion US dollar added in foreign exchange, which are contribution by our migrant workers. How much optimistic you are after post-COVID situation?
Well, if you go by figures, then I have to be optimistic. But then I would rather be more practical than optimistic.
Well,
because being optimistic probably would give a wrong idea. I'll just quote over here. If we can send people before the drop really drops, then inshallah, we probably would end up having a same level of thing, may not be too much higher, but I expect that we'll at least make the 18 billion that we made up to June last year.
Well, Mr. Georgi, you might add something.
It's a complex scenario. Of course, I'm also optimistic. It's also my job to be optimistic. But I would only add to what the Honourable Minister said, that it may also be the case that diaspora and relatives in North America and Europe are being mobilized to support.
Well, Mr. Georgi, Honourable Minister and Mr. Georgi will talk more after a short break. দর্শক দেখছেন RTV নিয়মিত আলোচনা অনুষ্ঠান ফোর্থরাইট। এই পর্যায়ে নিচ্ছি বিরতি, ফিরছি একটু পরেই। সে পর্যন্ত আমাদের সাথেই থাকুন। দর্শক আবারও আমন্ত্রণ ফোর্থরাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকে কথা বলছিলাম মাইগ্রেন্টস ক্রাইসিস ডিউরিং COVID-19 প্যান্ডেমিক নিয়ে। ওয়েলকাম এগেইন both of you at ForthRight. Mr. Georgi, ILO warned that tens of millions of migrants workers forced to return home because of the COVID-19 pandemic. What would be its consequences?
Well, there's a number of consequences. There's also a lot of uncertainty because we still don't know how this virus behaves. Will there be a second wave? So there are things we already know and things that we knew already back in March. Yes, millions of people are losing their jobs. Millions are returning, sometimes in debt, going back to their community with no income. However, I would like to reiterate, and most economists agree with this point of view, is that the economies will need to bounce back. Everyone is pushing to reopen as much as possible. Some will reopen faster than others, but the point is that markets are reopening, and those, not everyone, but there will be many jobs that will need to continue. Countries will need migrant labor. If anything, I would urge countries to look at potentially even new markets where new jobs have been created because of the crisis. We have to think outside the box and we have to be proactive.
Well, thank you. Honourable Minister, to fight against corona, the government have already approved an allocation of Taka 500 crore in the favor of Provasi Kalyan Bank to provide easy loans to expats who have lost their jobs. How many expats already get these benefits till today?
This moment, none.
Well,
Because you must remember, the 500 crore takas is applicable from July, from this budget. So as I said earlier, we cannot expect everything to happen overnight, you see. In another couple of months' time, they should be able to draw. But in the meantime, we will be advertising on this, the bank that is Provasi Kalyan Bank, who are responsible for this fund, and they will be announcing already. And people can start applying. For the 200 crore takas which the ministry has given, and the people, they've already asked for applications. People have over 3,000 people have already contacted the bank and they're interested to apply. And they're in the process of applying. Inshallah, we will get all these people working and the 500 crore takas into people's pockets where it'll make a difference to the economy of the country.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Georgi, experts are saying that in some cases, migrants are not well treated. In your view, how will this practice ultimately turn out?
Of course, the potential of migrants and the human resources that, for example, Bangladeshi migrants provide is enormous. It's enormous. To tap into that, from the point of view of Bangladesh now speaking, I want to reiterate what was already mentioned by the Honourable Minister, what has been mentioned by the Honourable Prime Minister, and that's skills, the recognition of skills. Because what we know, a very recent study that we did on remittances confirms this, but we knew this already. The more skilled the migrants are, the more they earn. The more they earn, the more they save. And the more they save, the more money they remit back to their families, which leads to community development and national development.
Honourable Minister, how does Bangladesh government works with the public and private sector's leaders, including development partners and UN organizations like IOM to respond to the immediate threats for migrant people?
Well, I'll tell you about this government. We reach out to all the stakeholders in this migration sector, whether it is the international organization, whether it is the NGOs, whether it is the migrant sector workers, whether it is the ministries. We tend to, and we have already started doing that, is what you call it, getting the National Labour Migration Forum working on not as a government functionary, but as a people's forum. And I'm sure that we will get results from there. I believe in collecting ideas and suggestions from everybody. I don't have all the brains. Everybody else has a lot of brains, and I want to collect it together so that we can come up with new ideas and go ahead accordingly. We recently had the National Labour Migration Forum meeting, and it was a big meeting, and we had everybody around, and we discussed a lot, and we came to a lot of conclusions. And I feel confident that when we go on that path of having everybody involved, we will come to a lot of solutions. Solutions basically at this moment of time is when I said about the training part of it, that is where we are giving a lot of emphasis. And we have the IOM and the ILO and other SDC, they all have been coming forth with trying to help us to sort out these problems. I believe that we can do a very fast job and help the migrant workers as everybody expects us to do.
Thank you. Mr. Georgi, once things normalize, how does an organization like IOM can work with Bangladesh government to mitigate this crisis?
Well, once things normalize, hopefully we won't have to mitigate anymore. But what we have been working on, and where we continue to support the government right now, especially the Ministry of Expat Welfare that's leading the charge, is on three fronts. So the first one is the specific COVID-19 support at the points of entry. And here we will need our donors to provide a lot of support. There's a serious injection of cash that is needed to support the returning migrants, because we need short-term and long-term solutions.
Mr. Georgi, one supplementary question to IOM representative. Since 25 August is the third year of Rohingya displacement. So I would like to ask on Rohingya. From the beginning of the Rohingya influx, the international community has stood beside Bangladesh, but the move for repatriation was being made without taking them into cognizance. Why? How long it may take to start this initiative?
Thank you for that question. It has been a long time indeed. Of course, it's been 3 years since the large influx of August 2017, but it's been many, many more years if you look how long Rohingyas have been here. Some have been here since early 90s. So let me just start by reiterating what I've said many times, and that's gratitude to Bangladesh for the extreme generosity that has been displayed in continuing to host such a large refugee population. The international community will continue to stand by Bangladesh without a doubt, and ultimately the only durable solution to this crisis can be the return of Rohingyas to their home in Myanmar. This is what they want, and this is what international law demands.
Well, thank you very much. Georgi, do you have any idea how long it may take?
Well, there has to be a political decision that is done bilaterally and multilaterally. And there are a lot of negotiations and a lot of dynamics happening involving obviously Bangladesh, Myanmar, and many other countries.
Well,
so I cannot tell you the date, but I can promise you one thing. The second the conditions are conducive on the other side, you have the full support of IOM and the UN to make the repatriation happen as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. We are almost end of the program. Any final thought both of you want to share with our viewers? Mr. Georgi first.
I will only briefly conclude that despite the crisis, despite the difficult times that we're going through in Bangladesh and globally, whenever a door closes, a window opens. So let's look for opportunities that are created in this crisis. And most importantly, let's not give up, because this crisis, we will get through this. This crisis will be over and we will find a way out, I'm sure.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, your remarks, please.
Actually, there never is end to the thoughts that plays in the minds when you have to worry about so many hundreds and thousands of people who might be becoming without a job and will be needing support in some form or the other. One is to be with the people and to help them to get on, and the other is to stand by them and say, hi, good, you go ahead.
Exactly.
We want to be the working standby. ওই যাকে বলে না বাংলায় that জনগণের পাশে দাঁড়ানো. So this is something which we feel that we can do. And I just, as I said in the beginning of my talk, that please be a bit patient and give us a bit of time. Because something that has befallen us, this calamity that has befallen us, it was not expected, it was never in the calculation No government was expecting it. No government. Again, here I'm very optimistic. Once the markets have closed, the markets will have to open again. All the countries, particularly the Middle East countries, they will have to have workers because they don't have any workers of no. So don't worry. I mean, as I said, hold your breath, clench your teeth, just wait. Things will, inshallah, work out well. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Mr. Imran Ahmed and Mr. Georgi, for joining with us. Thank you very much again, indeed. দর্শক, একটা চ্যালেঞ্জিং সময় পার করছি আমরা। জীবন বাঁচানোর এই যুদ্ধে সবাই যখন লড়ছে, তখন আরেকটি গুরুতর সমস্যা পৃথিবীতে বিদ্যমান, তা হলো অভিবাসন সংকট। বৈদেশিক জনশক্তি রপ্তানিকারকদের সংগঠন বাইরার মতে আমাদের প্রবাসী শ্রমিকদের সংখ্যা প্রায় 1,30,00,000 লাখ। অনেক প্রতিকূলতার মধ্যেও স্বজনদের কথা ভেবে অর্থের যোগান দেন প্রবাসীরা। ফলে বাংলাদেশের বৈদেশিক মুদ্রা রিজার্ভ আজ নতুন নতুন রেকর্ড করছে। আর বিশ্ব অর্থনৈতিক ফোরাম আশা করছে এবছর বাংলাদেশের প্রবাসী আয় কমে হবে 1,400 কোটি মার্কিন ডলার। আজকের আলোচনাতেও মাননীয় প্রবাসী কল্যাণমন্ত্রীও যে কথাটি উল্লেখ করেছেন, অনেকেই চাকরি হারিয়ে এবং পুঁজি নিয়ে দেশে ফিরেছেন, যার সামনে এই অবস্থায় নাও থাকতে পারে। এই পরিস্থিতিতে সরকার এবং আন্তর্জাতিক মহল সমস্যা সমাধানে কী পদক্ষেপ নেয় সেটি দেখার বিষয়। তবে প্রবাসী সংকটের সমাধান হোক স্থায়ী, দীর্ঘমেয়াদী এবং সম্মানের, সেই প্রত্যাশায় শেষ করছে আজকের ফোর্থরাইট। এতক্ষণ সঙ্গে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।
For more updates, subscribe and press the bell icon on YouTube app and never miss another update.